right. Well, good morning, Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Boston, and Facebook Live. We welcome you this morning. Welcome to our Sunday celebration here at 50 Dudley Street in beautiful and cool Cambridge, Massachusetts. We are a community of love and conscious spiritual seekers. That's what we do here. My name is Rev G. Stewart, and I, along with Rev Ed Tansey, we are the founders and spiritual leaders of this awesome community of light. Are we not a community of light?
Yes.
And love, indeed.
Yes.
At this center, like all CSL communities, we learn, study, and practice the philosophy of the science of mind that was founded by Dr. Ernest Holmes. Science of mind is the study of life and the nature of the laws of thought. Here, one of our first principles is oneness, and we practice all that that means in our day-to-day lives and entails in our day-to-day lives. Here we are radically inclusive and celebrate all paths that lead to one's highest good, or to understand the infinite energy or the God of their understanding. It doesn't matter what you call it. Understanding that this infinite energy is all that there is and is expressing itself as our lives and in all of our lives is the thing that we need to understand and what we come together to remember with each other regularly. So Ernest Holmes said we are a teaching and practicing order, so we teach classes. And if you would like to know more about our classes, those of you who are joining us on Facebook Live, or if you're new to the community, you can go to our website and you can look and see what classes are being offered to expand yourself in consciousness and to grow into the magnificent life that you are meant to have, that we are all meant to have, because that's what we are as magnificent beings. And the world tries to tell us otherwise, and we say, no, we don't accept that as truth. So for those of you at home who are joining us on Facebook Live, we ask you to consider us in your circulation and tithing practice by supporting our community's purpose. And our purpose is co-creating a world that works for everyone and for all of creation. And by sharing your financial gift, you can do that right there at cslboston.org, our community's website. Our community thanks you in advance for your support. So our 2019 theme is spirituality in action, and in November it is spiritual guidance. I stand for spiritually motivated moral leadership. I'm going to say that again because I kind of stumbled on that a bit. Spiritual guidance. I stand for spiritually motivated moral leadership. We talk about moral leadership, we're talking about spiritual morals. Morality, thank you. Because we don't want to get stuck in that idea of religious morality, because that can be limiting in so many ways. And so we want to be in that place of understanding that it's divine morality, following those inner compasses and those inner guides in our life. Today's talk is self-mastery. Isn't she great? I found her and I just said, she's awesome. I thought, yes, self-mastery, I'd like to be me. But anyway, I don't know, you think I could do the man bun thing? I don't think so. You think I could? If I had enough hair, I would. All right. So this wonderful morning, I would like to talk about response ability. There's a hyphen in the middle. You'll see more about that later. I also want to talk about where mastery of the self is applicable in our lives. And the last thing I want to talk about is capital letters. So there we go. So let's begin with responsibility. In the book Principle-Centered Leadership, Stephen R. Covey says, remember, responsibility is the ability to choose our response to any circumstance or condition. When we are response-able, our commitment becomes more powerful than our moods, our circumstances, and we keep the promises and resolutions we make and gain a certain sense of self-mastery. That's a powerful paragraph. It's deeply talking to us about, and what power that is. It has changed my concept of responsibility, the word. Because I am responsible. By separating that and pausing. It's kind of like when we talk about disease, we talk about dis-ease, right? It's that same idea. We're breaking it down and making it deeper, taking it deeper into our hearts. So for me, by breaking it up, it does give it more power. Now the question becomes, are we willing to be response-able? That's the question we need to ask ourselves, right? Are we willing to be that? For myself, I am always working at being response-able, and on occasion, I do miss the mark. And I know that my loving community will always remind me when I miss the mark. And you'll do that in a loving and kind and caring way, as I hope that I will be able to offer you when I find that you may not be in that response-able place in your life. Because we're all going through this together. As long as I am taking the initiative to remain in alignment with my self-mastery, I'm moving in the right direction. Would you agree? Yes. Because I'm building something greater for myself and for the world around me. Because when I am response-able, and I'm taking response-ability, I'm actually opening the possibility for everyone else around me. So it becomes that pebble in the pond and the rings that go out from that. So another way to look at this thing called responsibility is in the Book of the Month, Tao of the Tao of Leadership by John Heider. And he says this: to know how people behave takes intelligence, but to know myself takes wisdom. To manage other people's lives takes strength, but to manage my own life takes true power. If I am content with what I have, I can live simply and enjoy both prosperity and free time. If my goals are clear, I can achieve them without fuss. If I am at peace with myself, I will not spend my life in conflicts. If I have learned to let go, I do not need to fear dying. That's a powerful statement. And I've really enjoyed this book because it's just in little paragraphs, each piece of it, and how it talks about the Tao and leadership. And of course the Tao being, the Taoist belief system. So I want to just kind of like break this down a little bit. So when he's talking here, he's giving us tools to move into that space of taking responsibility. I can be content with the way things are, or I can make clear goals, and in making those goals, achieve them without fuss, as he speaks of. By finding peace within, I free myself of conflict, and lastly, by letting go, I free myself from dying. Now, when he talks about dying, do you think that he is talking about the physical death that we hear on this human plane of existence experience? No, exactly. He's not just talking about that. He's talking about dying to our limited beliefs, dying to our fearful experiences, because those need to die for us to live the full and magnificent life we're meant to have. Would you agree? Yes. And so we have to stand in that power. So again, it's taking on that power of mastery of the self. Now, do you think that as we talk about mastery of the self or self-mastery, that it only applies to the spiritual life or the spiritual realm? No, it doesn't. No. It has to do with all of our life, every piece of it. We say around here, God is all there is. and I don't care if you call it God or what you choose to call it, but understanding that that power is all that there is, recognizing that you're using it all the time, it has to be in everything. It can't be just here and, when we go out the door, it's not out there. Right? It is everywhere present, and we are constantly at the choice to accept the good we desire in our lives. We are always at choice. Isn't that powerful? To realize that you have the power in your life to take control and live a full and complete life. So for me, self-mastery is really about getting the small s self out of the way and operating from the capital S self in my life. Because that small s self, boy, is been there, done that, don't want to do that anymore. Had enough of that. Did enough in my life. So from this capital S self, we can better align with the highest and best good that we are worthy of. Would you agree? Because that's what we want. We want the highest and best life. And I love what Ernest Holmes says in this quote here. He says, the real self is God-given and cannot be denied. Cannot be denied. It's the gift that is already given. And as I was thinking of this statement, I was also thinking of the givingness, which is one of our, what we believes, the self-givingness, that it is always there, giving of itself. And it's up to us to take that which is given, right? If I am not receiving, then I can't have all that the universe has to give me. So I have to be in a receptive consciousness. And the beauty is, it cannot be denied. Now, I can deny it for myself, right? And I have, when I'm in my small s self, sometimes denied myself my good. I'm sure we all have at some point in our lives. So, and the beauty of what, Ernest Holmes says, there's even more that he goes on to say, and I love this. All nature waits on humanity's recognition of and cooperation of her laws, and is always ready to obey their will, but humanity must use nature's forces in accordance with her laws and in cooperation with her purpose, which is the goodness, truth, and beauty, if they wish to obtain self-mastery. So I need to be in this place right here. Goodness, truth, and beauty. Is what I'm expressing in my life in goodness, truth, and beauty? If it is not, then I need to go back and say, what do I need to know? Do my spiritual work, meditate, do spiritual mind treatment, which is our form of scientific prayer, affirmative prayer. It's being in that place of setting the tone, of wanting to be in goodness, truth, and beauty. And there's so many other words, and we'll talk about that as I go later into this talk. But he's telling us here that we are always using the forces of nature. But are we using them to our advantage, or are we using them to our disadvantage? As he says here, if they wish to attain self-mastery, I wish to attain self-mastery. How about you? So that I can always be in goodness, truth, and beauty. In that place. So, I wanted to just review our 10 core concepts, because I think these are always great things to help us remember about staying in that place of self-mastery. And these 10 core concepts actually lead, the first 9 actually lead to the 10th one. So the first one is oneness, as we mentioned earlier on in when I introduced myself to the community. And then we go on to the threefold nature of the divine. So there's three levels of consciousness within the divine. Not to say that it is separated, because we know in oneness it can't be separated. But for our human mind to accept it, it helps us to understand that there are those three levels of consciousness. There is the divine, which is spirit. There is that central area where everything is being received from the ideas into that. And then there is the bottom where it comes into form, into the matter that we can see and feel and touch and experience. And it is in all of that, understanding that it flows through all of that. Then we go on to the creative process. It's the similar idea. Every thought that I'm thinking is being planted into the soil of the law and is bringing forward the plant of my life, right? So then we go on to the next one, and that is wholeness. We are meant to be whole. We are not meant to be partial or incomplete. We are worthy of wholeness. And that it is the divine gift for us to receive that. So working on understanding our wholeness. Most especially in those times when we're experiencing less than wholeness, which is like physical illness, other things that we can have that separate us from our belief in the fact that behind it all, there is wholeness. Abundance. We are meant to be abundant. Look at nature. You know, right now is a perfect time. In the fall, we see all these leaves falling from the trees. And we know those leaves will be replaced next year. So as you see leaves, imagine piles of abundance. And rake them into your life and into your consciousness. So that's what it is. We are worthy of receiving and living an abundant life, not at the sake of others, but to include others, knowing that all are worthy of that. Then there's the reciprocal nature of the universe. What I'm putting out is coming back. If I'm putting out ugliness, it's going to come back. And it ain't pretty. Because it tends to come back multiplied. That's the one thing I don't like about it. So I need to be clear what I'm putting out there, what I'm putting into the world. And then immortality. We are endless. We never end. Yes, on the human experience, there is this thing called death. But it's only a belief. Because we are eternal, because we are a part of the eternal one. So we continue no matter what. And nobody has to give you permission to continue no matter what. You are already eternal. And there's no limitation to that eternality that you are. And you will continue on in consciousness. Ernest Holmes said you move to the next plane of existence. Whatever that is. Isn't that awesome? It's so freeing. This was one of the most freeing things I had. So understanding all those pieces, we come to number 10, which is the cosmic or Christ consciousness. Now when I say, the Christ consciousness, I'm not speaking of the Jesus the Christ, or Jesus Christ, as you hear him referred to so many times in many different religions. But it's being at that elevated level of consciousness of understanding that all that the divine is, I am, and connecting myself with that, becoming one with that. So you see how all of those can lead you right into that last piece of I can then be. And what is that? Self-mastery. Being in the Christ consciousness means I'm in self-mastery. And that's where I want to be. So I wanted to go ahead and talk about, when we talk about the Christ and the meaning of it, because I think it's always helpful to understand that. So we already know that it's not Jesus' last name. And it was actually, it was a title or an honoring name that was given at the time, meaning actually anointed or chosen one. Kings of the time were anointed and considered chosen ones. And even the queen, can't even come up with, the royals believed that they are chosen by God. And most people don't realize that they are chosen by God. But guess what? We are all chosen by God. We are all anointed. We can all be the Christ consciousness. After all, Jesus said, greater things than me will ye do. Are you ready to do some really awesome, miraculous stuff? Yes, right? I want to manifest abundance. I want to manifest joy. I want to manifest wholeness, peace, ease, grace in my life. How about you? That's what I want. That's what we want. And that's how we create a world that works for everyone. Would you agree? By living it and expressing it and not taking it from others, but offering it as an opportunity for others, because then we become the light of the world. So to me, reaching that place of enlightenment is what this is about. And it's about what we see in the Buddha. He attained enlightenment. Gandhi. To me, I felt Gandhi was an enlightened man. And we all have the opportunity. It's not just Gandhi, not just Buddha. It's all of us have that ability to be that light in the world that we want others to know. And sometimes it's just as simple as when you're standing in line and there's people, cleaning and carrying on, especially right now as we move into the holidays, that you can be that light. That you can choose to be more in that moment. Not to say we don't fall into sometimes that energy around us, but stopping and saying, am I being the response able? Am I being response able right now? So that's a powerful thing. So the bottom line is that if God or good is all there is, then there is always availability of self-mastery, would you agree? That's the beauty of this. And we can always take that little small s self, lovingly put them to the side and say, my big S self is running the show. And you can do that anytime, whenever you want. And that is the power. So then I want to go on to capital letters. That was the thing that I wanted to talk about last here today. So in proper names, we use capital letters, right? When you write your name, you don't write with a small letter at the beginning, right? Now, those of you who have studied the science of mind, and even if you haven't, what you will find is when you look in the science of mind or any book that Ernest Holmes wrote, all of the divine attributes are in capital letters. Even when he refers to God as it is a capital I-T. I always find my computer hates that, always wants to fix it. So I have to go, no, keep it that way. There will be no autocorrect in this writing. So. But that's the power of it, is that it's that capital I. And when I write like the I am, the A in the am is capitalized. Because I am all that God is. And it means that I am God in expression. Doesn't mean that I am God, but it means that I am individualist expression of the one. And so I have the opportunity always to show up as that capital I am in everything I do. So if I say I am sick, is that the best place to go? No. I can experience sickness, but I am perfect wholeness. I am perfection and wellness and health and all the things like when we sang the thank you for this day, all those things we talked about. I am wealth. So when we go to that place of I can't afford, I may choose not to do that now. But I can afford to do that. Does that make sense? Doesn't mean I put myself into debt to do that, but it means that I'm setting the consciousness that I have the opportunity to choose that, even though it may not appear as a possibility right now, but that I can experience, and I can set a consciousness around abundance in my life. So you see how all this works towards self-mastery, taking each thing of those core concepts, oneness, abundance, triune nature, creative process, all of those pieces, and make them one. There is a great beauty in all of this, a great beauty in understanding that all of these wonderful divine attributes are all ours. All love, all peace, all joy, all perfection, all wholeness, all givingness, compassion, all of those things. It's that reciprocal nature, right? I need to be in that flow of good and accept it for my life. So here's the cool thing. God is indeed all there is. And we are one with that. Ernest Holmes tells us in this human form, our spiritual experience is to be a process in which the self, notice capital S self, is revealed to the self, and the self must raise the self by the self. Let's say that again, because it's a lot of self. A process in which the self is revealed to the self, and the self must raise the self by the self. Is that powerful? Only Ernest can say that. But you see, you can see the capital S and the small s. It's realizing that we are all that. Like our song this morning. All that. So it's realizing that, we are constantly in this place. I love that he talks about that it's a process. It's a process. Our entire experience is a journey. It's a destination. And do we arrive? Yes, on occasion we do. And when you do arrive, please celebrate it. Don't just go on to the next thing, because that's what we do. We tend to forget that I've arrived at this place, at this moment. Experience it in that moment. I remember my mentor saying to me, when I went up for ordination, she says, don't miss that moment when you walk back in the room and they say, you are ordained. Don't miss that. And I was so glad she said that, because I got to experience what it meant in that moment. And it was so beautiful. And it was so powerful. So don't just go on after you reach something powerful. When you have those moments of self-mastery, celebrate yourself. Love yourself. And say, yes, I'm worthy of this. And I'm worthy of celebrating it. Because we are. So my call to you this week is that you go about your day-to-day activities at home, work, personal interactions with others, or whatever it is that you're doing in this life experience. That you take the time to connect with the capital S self and ask, what would my capital S self do in this situation? What would my capital S self? And we can go on. We could even change that if we wanted to. We could change it to, what would my Christ consciousness self say or do in this situation? Right? So in self-mastery, that's what we're going to do this week. Are you ready to join me in that? Awesome. Namaste. Fabulous.
Oh, did you get yourself?
Oh, I am. So let us join in prayer, spiritual mind treatment, which is our form of scientific prayer, scientific affirmative prayer. So just taking a moment to move within. If you're comfortable, you can close your eyes. And just closing out all distractions, any limitations, any fears, letting them all melt away in this moment and becoming fully present right here and right now in the recognition that there is only one infinite universal presence. One light, one love, one joy, one peace, one perfection, one wholeness, one opulent, abundant, overflowing, fully orbed expression that I call the Mother, Father, God. That answers to so many names. One infinite, universal good, one power, one presence. That is all that there is. And is continuously expressing itself in and as and through all of its creation. It is expressing itself individualized as me right here and right now in this moment. And as I recognize that about myself, I recognize that about each and every one in this room, each and every one who is joining us on Facebook Live, and each and every one who may be watching this in the archives. I know that this infinite universal good is expressing in its full and complete oneness with all. And it is from this understanding of this fully orbed oneness that I know right here and right now that this power and this presence is expressing itself in self-mastery in each life here. That it is fulfilling that expression of the Christ consciousness in each one and enlightening and illumining the individual to express and let others see that light in themselves. I know that each one is guided to the height and breadth and beauty and perfection and wholeness of this self-mastery. Being response-able in every area of our lives. I recognize that this is fully supported by this divine nature. And I am grateful as I claim it and I declare it, and I know that it is fulfilled. For it is indeed the Mother, Father, God's good pleasure to give the kingdom right here and right now for each one here and all throughout the cosmos. And so in this truth I can rest with a heart that is overflowing with gratitude and thanksgiving. Realizing and recognizing that this power is fulfilled, I can simply breathe these words into the activity of law. The law that receives the impress of these thoughts creates them into perfect form right here and right now, because that is the nature of the law. The law of mind is at work always. And so I can rest assured that this or something even better has already been fulfilled in this moment. And I can ground this truth by saying, blessed be, amen, ashe, aho, ah women. And together we say, and so it is. And so is our affirmation this week, which comes to us from Reverend Joanne Faith Borick, staff minister at CSL Red Deer, Alberta. Let's read this together. All that I am is a reflection of the One. All that I do in word and deed is my expression of my highest self in mastery. Let's say that again. All that I am is a reflection of the One. All that I do in word and deed is my expression of my highest